Just so while people are getting on, you see my new shirt here, Be the Plus. Um, I just sent this out to our leaders because really it just signifies in order to be and do what we want to achieve in life and have full joy, you don't just get somebody else to do something. You're the plus in somebody else's life before they join you on your mission or partner with you. And so our goal really is as leaders is to be the plus in somebody's life. So I like our new shirts. They turned out really cool. So I'm wearing a t-shirt today so you can see my new shirt. Um, I am not a good source of wisdom, but I have a good source of wisdom. Many of you know, no matter what your faith background is, if you've heard me share or speak before, I really rely on the Bible and God's word we're timeless principles to get wisdom to handle modern day situations. And Lori and I just moved full time to Lake Oconee. I'm a native of Atlanta, and not only during the pandemic, but the big city was just kind of getting a little bit crazy, and traffic was getting worse and worse. And we're just loving living down here at the lake, just a little over an hour from the airport, about an hour 15. So we can travel the world from the best airport in the world, but we get the benefit of pool, lake, hunting, fishing, and just a different pace of life down here. And the reason I bring that up is as we were packing up and moving, and then you get everything here, and we're slowly sorting out of storage units because we just didn't want to clutter the house. And so we're bringing boxes back. And I got into one of my boxes of books. I do love to read. I will tell you that Audible has spoiled me. So I plug for Audible because I can take in books and multitask at the same time. So I don't actually read as many books as I used to, but I think Audible told me that I had, consumed like 250 books in the last 5 years. So I do like to read. But as we were packing and unpacking, I don't have the book right in front of me, but one of my favorite books, The Issachar Factor. Yes, you heard me right. It's a funny word. Issachar Factor just popped up as I was sorting through where to put books. And it really made me think about the principles I'd learned in that book, kind of to check my brain to see if I remember any of them, but also to think about how that applies to the times we're in right now. And the Issachar Factor, just to give you a little background, it's a funny story that's not very known. Not funny, but it's a funny little name in the Bible, and that goes back to where there were 12 tribes of Israel, and one of those 12 tribes was Issachar. We remember, the common ones like Joseph and Levi and some of those, but Issachar was one of those 12 tribes. And for the most part, each of those 12 tribes had some distinguishing characteristics and qualities that were described, and Issachar's was there too. And the description of the tribe of Issachar was that the men of Issachar knew the signs of the times and they acted accordingly. So they acted according to knowing current events, knowing what was going on. They made wise choices. Thus, the Issachar factor is doing things, adding that factor to your decision making and your processes. And so you knew the signs of the time. So it's a really cool thought. Don't each of you want to know the signs of the times and act accordingly? Whether we liked it or not, no matter who we blame, no matter whether you call it COVID-19, Wuhan virus, China virus, or just the worst thing that's hit in your lifetime, whatever you want to call it, this past year has produced some signs that probably would cause us to react while we're in the pandemic. And then there's some signs of this is going to stop when we get out of the pandemic and return to whatever normal is going to look like. So as we exit, there's some things to think about. What has thrived? Let's talk positive for a minute. What has thrived during the pandemic? Well, I would say YouTube has thrived. Netflix has thrived. But I look at all these people that I would have never watched on YouTube, never even thought about wasting the time to watch, but I've watched because we were at home a lot, couldn't interact with people. So YouTube's gotten way more views than normal. And I think that's one of those things that will drop way back and exit after the pandemic. So it wasn't the big screen, but there were people that created their famedom on the little screen, your laptop, your phone, during the pandemic that probably won't last because there's a little bit of screen weariness and we have better things to do than sit and watch YouTube. Our business, the business that I'm in, and I don't know what business you're in all different kinds of businesses, but our business, the Juice Plus business, it's a very relational business. It's what I would call relationship marketing. And we were breaking records and setting, just doing amazing. We're a 50-year-old company that has been a launching pad for every generation. We haven't sat back and just, done the same old. We've added things. We've come up with new solutions. We've created foundations. We've grown globally into 26 countries. So we're doing great. Pandemic hits. And you would think in a relationship-driven business, it would shut us down. But, our business in particular, we have 5 studies on the immune system and what were people thinking about during the pandemic, their health, immune function. So we're in our 13th month of record sales, but it still feels weird. It feels like we've slowed down because our business is about people. It's about relationships. It's about being together. It's about a cup of coffee at Starbucks. It's about conferences and live events we do in cool locations all over the world. So we felt disconnected, but business was still great. Now, when we come out of this pandemic, and I guess we did adapt. We used Zoom more. We connected in different ways. We use Facebook some. But as we come out of this pandemic, our people are ready to get out and hug and get together and build their business person to person, long-term commitments, doing life together, building a business. And that's about to happen. I've seen other companies that basically didn't exist during the pandemic. They were struggling nowhere. They had a history of, real issues. And during the pandemic, they kind of caught a glimpse of a perfect storm. There's lots of businesses that are, in the moment making Facebook work in a big way. Because everybody's on their screens. Just think about it. Other than in a pandemic year, when have we ever had so many people staring at screens? It's not normal. I think of one example. Think of like Carvana thing. It's great. It's a vending machine, it's a vending machine home delivery for cars. But you know what? If I'm going to spend that kind of money on a car, I want to sit in it, drive it. I want to feel it, see it, check it for problems. And they thrived for people that needed a car during the pandemic. We come out of the pandemic. People are going to go buy cars face to face. People are going to go look at houses. They're not going to do virtual tours of houses. People are not just going to click on links on Facebook. They're going to want to shop. They're going to want to talk to people, but they're people that have really, taken advantage of the pandemic to create a business model that probably won't exist or not exist at the level that it exists outside the pandemic. There are like tons of people that join buyers clubs to buy their toilet paper and their soaps and their things during the pandemic. And as soon as this pandemic's over and the regular grocery shopping and Walmart and Sam's and Costco are back like where you go get your stuff, people are going to forget about all those connections they made on Facebook. The real world is going to return. So we have to realize, like that Issachar thing, we have to know the signs of the times. There are a lot of things that got punished during the pandemic. Restaurants, hotels, airlines. And, one of the things that I think will stick just because of the cost and overhead that it avoids, if you're in the commercial real estate leasing industry, I think there are a lot of office buildings that are not going to open back up. People have realized that you can do from your home the same things you can do from the penthouse of a skyscraper with a $20,000, $30,000, $100,000 a month rent to house all your employees. With technology, all that's being done from home. But now we're going to be able to have home bases, but we're still going to be able to get out and see the people. So a lot of businesses that conveyed and created themselves as online only, the screen time that's allowed them to flourish during this pandemic, it's fixing to drop off the radar screen. People are going to disconnect from screens. They're going to check Facebook occasionally. Facebook's not going anywhere. But in terms of using Facebook to do your everyday life, it's over when this thing shuts down. So as you're looking at this pandemic exiting, I feel like we're in a really good place because we had 13 months of record growth and we did not have the key aspects of our relationship building business, and that's fixing to come back. So because of the industry we're in and our product being number one in its industry, and we don't have a lot of products. We kind of decided that we picked a product category, which was whole food nutrition, plant-based nutrition, and we own that category. And we're going to stay there. That's the lane we're in, and we're excited about that. And we're excited about being the best at what we do. So as this thing comes back and relationship marketing builds, it's going to be awesome. But know the signs of the times. If you're needing to change careers or do something, make sure you're not joining something that seems to be hot for the moment because people's eyes are glued to screens. We're human beings and people need people. We don't need posts. Posts have entertained us during the pandemic and have caused us to stay glued to screens. But as soon as this is over, I feel like I'm going to do everything I can to stay off the screens and be with people. We're already starting to do that. But like me sharing with you right now, a year and a half ago, I would have been in front of an audience of 300 people, energized by being in your presence and being able to share. And right now, I'm probably talking to a lot of people. I have no idea how many. It doesn't really matter. But it's not the same. Hopefully the content's good, but it's just not the same. And all that's going to come to an end. Perfect storms create momentary successes. And there's several things that weren't around that thrived during the pandemic because they took advantage of YouTube audiences and Facebook screen time, but that's not the real world. That was the pandemic world. So be like Issachar. Know the signs of the times, act accordingly, and just know that normal's coming back. Maybe a little different than we had before, maybe not the exact same, but not a new normal, but a better normal. But if you were dependent or become dependent on hiding behind your computer screen, never getting out, not building relationships, not connecting with people, that was a glimpse in the timeline of history during this pandemic year. The real world's coming back. And if you think like Issachar and knew the signs of the times, you would know that as this normal comes back, some of those things like YouTube and Facebook, they're not going away, but they're going to go way down. And if you're dependent upon those platforms, the number of eyes that are on the screens is going to disappoint you. There's more to come because we need to keep thinking about current events and what Issachar would do. If this was true, how would you respond? So I hope this has helped you a little bit, and we'll dive into this some more. But would love to hear what some of your favorite books are, what the principle you learned was, and how it's impacting you in the past, how it impacted you in the past, and maybe how it's impacting you right now. Okay? Have a great day.